Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. Joe Lacob, the owner of the Warriors, remains a fervent supporter of Jonathan Kuminga, but the player wants to leave to get more minutes on the court playing for another team. The Golden State Warriors are the only NBA team yet to acquire a player this offseason, and that is, in most part, due to Jonathan Kuminga. The 22-year-old forward has been in the midst of a prolonged restricted free agency, and it appears Golden State and Kuminga's representatives have been unable to come to a consensus on a long-term contract extension that satisfies both sides. To avoid losing him for nothing, the Warriors should be proactive and try to use Kuminga as a trade piece to better their roster ahead of a pivotal 2025-26 season. Warriors trade idea sends Jonathan Kuminga to the Suns. In a trade idea proposed by Christopher Klein of Fansided, the Warriors would ship Kuminga to the Phoenix Suns. Golden State Warriors, Dillon Brooks, Nick Richards, PHX 2026 first-round pick. Phoenix Suns receive Jonathan Kuminga. The two teams most credibly connected to Kuminga trade talks so far are the Sacramento Kings and the Phoenix Suns, which should probably inform your opinion on Kuminga as a player. Not exactly the most functional front offices in the NBA, wrote Klein. That said, the Suns are looking to re-spark the offense after the Kevin Durant trade. Kicking the tires on Kuminga, still 22, at least gestures at an attempt to build a more sustainable core around Devin Booker. While Phoenix looks to retool and rebuild around Devin Booker, the Warriors can take advantage of the Suns' obvious goal of getting younger and more athletic. While Dillon Brooks may be a bit redundant on Golden State, considering Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green play the enforcer role well, he would still be a solid addition to the Warriors' bench unit and give them an edge when their starters are off the floor. Nick Richards is a solid rim protector, and became expendable when the Suns acquired Mark Williams from the Charlotte Hornets. He can start in place of Green on nights when Golden State needs more size at the 5. Overall, this would be a solid return for Golden State. Along with a future first-round pick, they set themselves up nicely with improved depth ahead of the 2025-26 season. Jonathan Kuminga will buy into Stephen Curry's championship goals if Warriors agree to $26.9 million condition. Jonathan Kuminga is ready to put his demands aside and re-sign with the Warriors if they're willing to amend their latest offer. The Jonathan Kuminga saga has been one of the major talking points of the summer. The Golden State Warriors and the young forward have failed to come to terms on multiple occasions this offseason. The Warriors asked Jonathan Kuminga if he wanted to stay with the team. Given that Kuminga rejected the Warriors' latest offer, they might have the answer to that question. Kuminga is tired of the Warriors' coaching staff not giving him the opportunities he wants. At this point, it isn't about the money for him. Or so it appeared, as Kuminga is willing to renege on his position and return to the Warriors if they slightly tweak their $75.2 million contract offer. Jonathan Kuminga wants player option instead of team option on Warriors' contract. According to ESPN's Anthony Slater, Jonathan Kuminga and his representation have sent a message to the Golden State Warriors. Instead of wanting to leave, Kuminga is ready to accept the $75.2 million salary as long as the Warriors change the final year to a player option to a team option. I actually talked to Aaron Turner, Jonathan Kuminga's agent, this morning. The messaging that they're adopting this week is turn the TO, team option, to a PO, player option, and it's done. If it's a team option on that deal, $75.2 million, if that is suddenly a player option, not only will Jonathan Kuminga sign it, but he will be completely bought in on the mission they're asking of him. That is to get Stephen Curry and Draymond Green a 5th ring, Jimmy Butler his 1st ring. That is an understanding that it is a show of goodwill, if they set it to a player option, for years of confusion over his role. They compared the deal to a lower-level version of the Jalen Green deal that Houston signed. He got paid by Houston to know he might get traded. He was traded for Kevin Durant. If they want Kuminga to sign this and buy in, he wants that player option and not a team option. That's the hold-up right now. Golden State Warriors have less than 2 weeks to convince Jonathan Kuminga. At this time, it is unclear whether the Golden State Warriors will acquiesce to this demand from Kuminga and his agent. The Warriors have seemingly been reluctant to give Kuminga what he actually wants, a way out of the franchise. However, this is the closest the two sides have been during these extended negotiations. If all Kuminga is asking for a player option, the Warriors should take this deal. Changing the final year of his contract to a player option doesn't make him any less tradable. And given that the Warriors and Kuminga have to meet the October 1st deadline for the qualifying offer, both sides should try to get this deal done as soon as possible. Best case and worst case Warriors Jonathan Kuminga scenarios. Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors are entering a pivotal moment. The stakes couldn't be higher for both parties. With several days left until training camp, both sides would love to get a resolution for the contract situation. A lottery pick in 2021, Kuminga's the most prominent asset from the two-timeline strategy. When the Warriors drafted him, they hoped he could grow into a player who would take the lead as two-time NBA MVP Stephen Curry ages. Best case and worst case Warriors Jonathan Kuminga scenarios. What happens in the next several days can very well define both the franchise and the player. With that in mind, let's take a look at some of the best case and worst case scenarios. Warriors' best case scenario. For the Warriors, the best case scenario is that they strike a fair contract extension, get Kuminga to fully buy into his role, and secure him for the foreseeable future. If he improves, there's a chance they could flip him for an established star that provides immediate help. Or, they can keep him and hope he can carry the torch when their franchise cornerstones retire. In either scenario, his growth could ease Curry's burden and ease Golden State's transition into a new era. Furthermore, with a focused Kuminga, the Warriors can regain their cohesion and prevent drama in the locker room. This will make it easier to focus on the goal of winning another championship. However, if they lose Kuminga for nothing, their impending rebuild becomes more challenging. Yes, the Warriors might have plenty of cap space in the summer of 2027. Yet, cap space is never guaranteed to deliver great players. Warriors' worst-case scenario. The worst-case scenario for Kuminga and the Warriors is that he feels undervalued and signs the one-year qualifying offer. That would essentially make him an untradeable asset. Despite the typical appeal of an expiring contract, it's likely that he'll leave next summer as a free agent. This could be unfavorable for the Warriors because other teams may be wary of negotiating with him next summer and there can be punitive costs of acquiring players in a sign-and trade. Furthermore, he's intrigued by the possibility of joining the Sacramento Kings, and other suitors may see him signing with him as an inevitability. Without a young player of Kuminga's caliber, the Warriors wouldn't be able to make an attractive trade offer for players like Utah Jazz forward Lauri Markkanen. In the end, they'll lose a top 10 draft pick for nothing. Situations like that can set franchises back for years. Another worst-case scenario is they bend to his demands, which doesn't seem likely, and he doesn't develop into a star, making his contract an overpay. It seems like the Warriors' strategy with Kuminga, develop him and try to trade him, has finally backfired. Jonathan Kuminga's best-case scenario. The best-case scenario for Kuminga is that he agrees a contract that lets him dictate his future. Right now, the holdup in negotiations comes down to the Warriors not wanting to budge on inserting a team option in the final year of his contract. Kuminga wants Golden State to give him a player option in the final year. If his wishes are granted, he'll have 2 years to show his worth, and then he'll have the option of re-entering free agency while still under 25 years of age. As Kuminga's averaging 15.8 points per game over the past 2 seasons, there's no reason that he can't add up 15 to 18 points per game until his next contract expires. With his physical tools and finishing ability, he could get half of those points on cuts and in transition. In a numbers game, that could make the Warriors, or another team, view him as a rising star, allowing him to sign a richer contract the next go-around. Jonathan Kuminga's worst-case scenario. Imagine Kuminga enters the season frustrated due to his contract, and then suffers an injury. That would cripple his potential to get a wealthier contract next summer. The history of the NBA is full of players who refused a contract and guaranteed money, only to regret it next season. Really, signing a qualifying offer is already a worst-case scenario for him. If he sustains a significant injury, especially while on a one-year deal, the Warriors might decide to lowball him in their next round of negotiations. Or, they could glue him to the bench. Why would they play and develop someone who they know for sure is leaving next summer anyways? Former Warriors Hall of Famer makes bold prediction for Jonathan Kuminga's future. A Hall of Fame former Golden State Warriors All-Star has weighed in on Golden State power forward Jonathan Kuminga's protracted restricted free agency situation. During a new interview with Matt Moore of the Action Network, Hall of Fame former Warriors point guard Tim Hardaway Sr. unpacked the two sides' fraught negotiations so far. It's difficult for Kuminga. I know he doesn't fit in their skin. After 2 or 3 years, you know you don't fit, and you try to get a trade, Hardaway said. He's gonna have to sign a one-year deal. He's gonna have to go in there and play his expletive off. Kuminga, Warriors still at a standstill, but for how long? Kuminga is reportedly pursuing a long-term contract that will pay him $20 to $30 million per season. With no solid sign-and-trade offers materializing, the Warriors instead want to ink him to a 2-season, $45 million deal without a no-trade clause, meaning they can control where they would ultimately trade him. Hardaway, meanwhile, believes the league's new collective bargaining agreement is the ultimate culprit behind these restricted free agent cold wars we've seen all summer. So far, among the big four restricted free agents, Brooklyn Nets shooting guard Cam Thomas, Chicago Bulls point guard Josh Giddey, Kuminga, and Philadelphia 76ers guard Quentin Grimes, only 2 have been signed. And only 2 weeks remain before the start of the NBA preseason. The majority of them didn't want to go that way, but they were persuaded to go that way because they were looking at the money that they were getting already, Hardaway said of the CBA. So now they understand that we messed up, we should not have done that collective bargaining agreement, so we could be this unrestricted free agent. Hardaway supports Kuminga sticking around, while offering that he's a solid player deserving of more opportunity. The 22-year-old may at least be a frustrating watch, as evinced by his meandering three-point shooting stats, but his downhill athleticism, size, and length make him a tantalizing prospect. He's going to have to make it where either they're going to trade him or they are not going to trade him. That's the only thing I can say. But I think he's a good player. I just think that Steve Kerr lost faith in him and I don't think that he's going to be there, Hardaway added. I don't think he's going to be there for half the season. Warriors' reasoning for team option in proposed Jonathan Kuminga deal revealed. The Golden State Warriors and restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga are still in negotiations over a new contract. After months of back-and-forth talks, one facet of the deal looms large, whether it will contain a team or player option for the 3rd season, which has been the primary source of disagreement between both parties. The Warriors are insistent on Kuminga's new deal containing a team option, which will prevent him from exploring free agency until the contract expires. Kuminga, however, wants a player option, giving himself the flexibility to potentially leave Golden State 1 year earlier and find a more lucrative deal elsewhere in the NBA. Weber State vs. BYU highlights, September 16, 2025 Big 12 Volleyball. League insider Jake Fisher recently revealed the reason why the Warriors have refused to budge on their current stance in negotiations thus far. Team option in Kuminga's contract provides Warriors with roster flexibility. During an Insider Notebook livestream on Bleacher Report's app and YouTube page on September 17, Fisher said including a team option for the final year of Kuminga's proposed 3-year, $75.2 million contract will maintain the Warriors' roster flexibility for future seasons. As the organization is set to see many of its aging superstars' contracts expire in the near future, Kuminga's team option will allow it to either hold on to Kuminga for an additional year or trade him for assets that will contribute to the team's future success. The Warriors need to have Kuminga at a significant salary structure, something north of $20 million, to, at a minimum, help them go out and trade for some reinforcements, some upgrade, as they try to compete in a loaded Western Conference with Steph Curry in the waning years of his prime, with Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green all still locked up under team control for 2 years, Fisher said. The fact that the Warriors wanted that 3rd-year team option also goes back to that point. Golden State does not have anyone on their contract books beyond the next 2 seasons, this upcoming 25-26 campaign, and the 26-27 season that Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green are all signed for. It also wouldn't rule out the possibility of a sign-and trade for Kuminga, which has been a rumored resolution to his ongoing stalemate with the Warriors.